Egypt, look at the incredible detail on the pharaoh's gold mask. This culture spanned thousands of years, and they even preserved their dead.
Think back to 6th grade. There's a poster on the wall. Pyramids, a pharaoh with a gold mask, maybe a mummy wrapped in white bandages. Your teacher writes ancient Egypt on the board and tells you about slaves building the pyramids, Cleopatra seducing Julius Caesar, and a civilization so mysterious we still don't fully understand it. It felt like the real story. It wasn't. Almost everything you were taught about ancient Egypt was either wrong, incomplete, or, and this is the part that should make you angry, invented by Hollywood and copy-pasted into textbooks. Today, we're going to fix that. Not with conspiracy theories, not with pseudoscience, with actual archaeology, with the things Egyptologists have known for decades that somehow never made it into your classroom. Let's start with the biggest lie of all. You know this image. Thousands of enslaved people, whipped and broken, dragging enormous stones across the desert under the merciless Egyptian sun. It's in the 10 Commandments. It's in every history documentary from the 1970s. It might be the single most repeated fact about ancient Egypt. It's also completely wrong. In 1990, a horse stumbled near the Giza plateau and broke through the ground, revealing a hidden cemetery. Archaeologists spent the next decade excavating it. What they found destroyed the slave narrative permanently. The workers buried there, the people who built the pyramids, were not slaves. They were skilled laborers, Egyptian citizens, and the evidence is in their bones. Their skeletons show healed fractures. That means they received medical care. You don't set a slave's broken leg. You don't give a slave time to recover. But these workers had been treated, healed, and sent back to work. The site also revealed bakeries, breweries, and a sophisticated supply chain that fed thousands of workers. Enormous quantities of bread, fish, and beef, far more protein than ordinary Egyptians ate. These people were not being starved into submission. They were being fueled for heavy labor. And the graffiti, workers left graffiti on the stones, including the names of their work gangs. One crew called themselves Friends of Khufu, another, Drunkards of Menkaure. Drunkards of Menkaure. These are not the words of enslaved people. These are workers with enough comfort and enough dark humor to name themselves after their pharaoh's drinking habits. So where did the slave story come from? Largely from Herodotus, a Greek historian who visited Egypt 2,000 years after the pyramids were built, heard local legends, and wrote them down as fact. Hollywood found those stories and ran with them for a century. Your teacher didn't lie to you. Your teacher was lied to first. Here's a sentence that should break your brain a little. The most famous Egyptian in history was not Egyptian. Cleopatra VII, the Cleopatra, the one with Caesar and Mark Antony, and the legendary Asp, was Macedonian Greek. Her family, the Ptolemaic dynasty, had ruled Egypt for 250 years by the time she was born, and in all that time, not one of them had bothered to learn the Egyptian language. Cleopatra was the first. She reportedly spoke 9 languages: Egyptian, Greek, Ethiopian, Hebrew, Aramaic, Arabic, and several others. Ancient sources describe her as someone who never needed a translator, which was almost unheard of for a ruler of her stature. She was, by any measure, extraordinarily intelligent, a trained philosopher, a political genius who kept Egypt independent while Rome was swallowing the Mediterranean whole. But she was not Egyptian by blood. She was the product of a Greek royal family that had been intermarrying, primarily with each other, for over 2 centuries. Why does this matter? Because the face of Egypt that the Western world has fixated on for 2,000 years, the face on the coins, in the paintings, in the movies, is a Greek face, and the actual Egyptian civilization, built by actual Egyptians over 3,000 years, gets compressed into the last chapter of Cleopatra's soap opera. Egypt deserves better than that, and so do you. This one is the most mind-bending, and your teacher almost certainly never mentioned it. We call it ancient Egypt as if it were one uniform block of distant history, but Egypt lasted for over 3,000 years. 3,000 as a functioning continuous civilization. Here is what that actually means. Cleopatra, who we just established, lived at the very end of Egyptian civilization, shortly before Rome absorbed it, lived closer in time to the moon landing than she did to the construction of the Great Pyramid. Read that again. Cleopatra, the last pharaoh, was more than 2,500 years removed from the pyramid builders. To her, the pyramids were already ancient history. She was as far from Khufu as we are from Cleopatra. When she visited the Sphinx, she was a tourist at a ruin. This means ancient Egypt is not one civilization, it's multiple eras, multiple cultures, multiple languages and artistic styles and religious beliefs, stacked on top of each other across a span of time that makes all of recorded Western history look like a long weekend. Your textbook gave it 2 chapters. 2 chapters for 3,000 years. That's not a history lesson. That's a postcard, pop quiz. What do you associate with ancient Egypt? Mummies, tombs, the Book of the Dead, curses, burial rituals, the afterlife. Here's the truth. Egyptians were not obsessed with death. They were obsessed with life, specifically with continuing it. The elaborate tombs, the mummification process, the spells and prayers and grave goods. None of that was about celebrating death. It was about defeating it, about ensuring that the person who died would wake up again, recognize their body, and keep living in another form. The ancient Egyptian word for the tomb was the house of eternity. Not a grave, a house, a place you come back to. The images inside tombs are not grim. They show feasts, music, hunting, family, laughter. They show everything the person loved about being alive, because the point was to bring all of that into whatever came next. Egyptians threw parties, they brewed beer, they wrote love poetry, some of the oldest love poetry in human history, and it sounds like it could have been written last Tuesday. They had board games, they had cats as pets, and they adored them. The civilization that your teacher presented as shadowy and death-obsessed was one of the most life-affirming cultures the world has ever produced. We got it backwards because we found their tombs first. The tombs survived, the parties didn't. So here's what actually happened in 6th grade. Your teacher read from a textbook written in the 1980s, which cited sources from the 1950s, which were based on a tradition of scholarship going back to European explorers in the 1800s, who looked at Egypt through a very specific lens, one that emphasized mystery, otherness, and the exotic. That lens was not neutral. It served a story about Egypt as a place to be decoded by outsiders, rather than understood as a civilization built by people who were as complex, funny, ambitious, petty, brilliant, and human as anyone alive today. The workers who built the pyramids gave their crews nicknames. Cleopatra learned your language before she learned to rule you. A scribe 3,000 years ago wrote a love poem that would fit perfectly in a text message right now. That's the Egypt your history class never had time to teach you. And the reason it matters, the reason any of these matters, is not just historical accuracy. It's that every myth we believe about the past shapes how we see the present. When we imagine ancient people as simpler, more exotic, more mysterious than us, we're not learning history. We're writing fiction about ourselves. Egypt was not ancient. Egypt was human, and it's been waiting for you to figure that out. If this cracked something open for you, share it with someone who still thinks the pyramids were built by slaves. And if you want the next myth shattered, the video on what Rome's fall actually looked like is right there. See you next time.